Welcome to the latest Wax Ecstatic Pack Break. I'm your host, Matt Salmon, and I am really glad that I ate lunch before recording this video because we've got a lot of food stuff baseball cards. That's right, by listener demand, and thanks to a lot of listener submissions and some rummaging around my own collection, I was able to find a lot of food stuff cards that covered the gamut of every bit of food and every style of card here. And let's quickly go through some of these, and I'll even open up a few packs. Let's start with the late 70s and early 80s. Now, as we'll discuss in our next podcast, which is coming up on this Friday, that would be April the 9th, we're going to talk about the history of the food stuff cards. And really, food stuff cards, they go back to the dawn of baseball cards. Certainly the moment that bubble gum or some other candy was packaged with a baseball card. Well, cards were essentially tied to food, and they have been ever since, whether it's through cereal boxes or through Twinkies and stuff like that. That's the more common stuff. Here we have some other food-related co-branding opportunities that we'll focus on. So let's start here. I've got a pack of 1980 Topps Squirt baseball cards. Picked this up off of eBay. And as you can see on the original promotion here, it says, get 3 cards free with a Squirt purchase, offer good while supplies last. Now, if you remember Squirt, I think they still make it. And nowadays they make it kind of like Sundrop. They actually make it with real sugar and not that gummy corn syrup. Squirt was a very sugary citrus soda. So if you were a kid at this time, I can only imagine the sugar crashes and the carbs that you dealt with by buying Squirt. But let's open up this pack to show you what the 1980 Squirt Topps baseball cards look like, comparing and contrasting them to the regular set. So first, let's start with the offer card. We're going to flip this over here. Here you have a collection of lifetime 300 hitters. Nice little checklist here. And you'll notice the deviation from the normal Topps color. Now, on the actual cards themselves, as you'll see, they have the usual 1980 look and feel. But Topps decided to go with the color scheme that Squirt had and still has, which is that yellow and green, almost an Oakland Athletics look to it. Now, as for the actual cards, we've got a highlight card here of Lou Brock and Carl Yastrzemski entering the 3,000 hit circle. So let's flip that over. This is card number 1 in this set, featuring Brock and Yaz hitting the 3,000 hit circle during the 1979 campaign. We also have a couple of common players here, but of course, as we like to mention, there may be common players, but there is no, or there are common cards, but no common players. I knew I'd mix that up. Steve Mingori here on the left and Claudell Washington on the right. Now, if we flip these cards over, you will see that they are very much like your standard issue 1980 Topps card. There is no Squirt logo on here. You've got the card number where it would normally be. The stats are where they normally would be. The little biographical notes where they'd be. The cartoon where they'd be. So it's very easy. And as I flip these back over, you'll see there's no Topps logo or Squirt logo on the front of these cards. So it's very easy to get these confused with the base set releases from Topps. So always be careful. I've discovered a few older cards in my collection that, they were actually Squirt releases or Burger King releases. You didn't know it. Now let's very quickly open up this entire set of 1982 Squirt Topps baseball cards as I rip open the package here. Now you'll see a notable difference between 1982 and 1980. Now here are the promotional cards that you would find. Thank you for drinking Squirt and Diet Squirt. Well, if you're drinking Diet Squirt, why bother? And you could also win up to $1,000 in groceries instantly. I wish I had that now, not 1982. Now here we go, as we go flipping through these really quick. Cecil Cooper, Jerry Remy, George Brett, Alan Trammell, Reggie Jackson, Kirk Gibson, young Kirk Gibson there, Dave Winfield, Carlton Fisk, Ron Guidry, Dennis Leonard, Raleigh Fingers, Pete Rose, Phil Garner, Mike Schmidt, Davey Concepcion with the old Tampa Stadium in the background there. I don't know if you can see that. George Hendrick, the Hawk Andre Dawson, George Foster, Gary Carter, Fernando Valenzuela, a huge pickup if you were collecting cards in 1982, the legendary Tom Seaver, and Bruce Sutter. Now, if you flip these cards on the back, yes, they're designed like an 82 Topps card, but clearly the color scheme is different. Back of an 82 Topps card had green backs with blackish purplish text. Here you have a white cardstock with the yellow and black, again kind of going with the Squirt color scheme. The front of the cards are beautiful, not only because of the Squirt color scheme, but the angling, kind of this Sharpie marker or dry erase marker font for the team names. It's kind of neat. The bad side is, and I'll be very gentle here, very flimsy cardstock compared to the industrial grade usual 1980 stuff here. So that's what the Squirt sets look like. I got that on eBay relatively cheap. Listener donations here. Thank you so much for the 1981 Topps Coca-Cola cards. There were team releases, 11 cards from each team, and here's the Philadelphia Phillies team. So we've got Manny Trio, Bake McBride, Bob Boone, Tug McGraw, we talked about him in our last show, the Sarge, Gary Maddox, Lonnie Smith as a youngster, Larry Boa with the 1970s Alex Trebek look, very nice. The Polish powder keg Greg Luzinski, lefty Steve Carlton, Pete Rose placing a bet, and then, of course, Mike Schmidt. Now, I'll just flip the Schmitty card over here, and there is a notable difference between the regular 1981 base card and these Coca-Cola cards. One, you've got the Coca-Cola logo up here in the upper left-hand corner. You obviously have different card numbers here for each card. And most prominently on the front of the card, a big fat Coca-Cola logo right there in the corner. So whether Coca-Cola paid for more exposure than Squirt, that's debatable. But you can clearly see the differences here from 1980, where there's practically no difference between the Squirt card and the base card. 1981, where you've got the Coca-Cola logo all over. And then with the 1982 Squirt cards, you're dealing with a completely different front and back design, not to mention the flimsy cardstock. Let's take a look at a few of the other cards that I have here real quickly. Here's an interesting one. The Cooperstown collection from Kahn, the hot dog and sausage maker. Who better to represent vast amounts of packaged meat than Harmon Killebrew? Flip this over on the back and you've got a nice little biography as well as career numbers for Killer. Also, very flimsy cardstock here. When was this made? I don't have a year on these. I'll have to look these up. But I would imagine mid-90s here. We got Brooks Robinson, Johnny Bench, Negro League players, Cool Papa Bell, Yaz once again, Eddie Matthews, Whitey Ford, Pops, Willie Stargell. Some nice works of art here. Just again, very flimsy cards here. Billy Herman and Bob Gibson. So from sausage and hot dogs, we have the Stofers Legends of Baseball. Now this is an interesting little product here. This is the Bob Feller 3D card, I believe. Let's see if I can pull this up here. Of course not. All right. Well, anyways, here. We'll get Bob Feller to pull up here. You could, once you unfolded this, and I don't have enough time in this video, once you unfolded this, maybe you could see the perforation there. You would basically turn this into a pop-up card, and you would have Bob Feller in a very high leg kick delivering a 98-mile-an-hour fastball. And you have a very unhappy looking Bob Feller here on the back with some biographical information. So this is again from the day and the age in the mid-90s where everybody created baseball cards, including Stofers and, of course, Con hot dogs. But wait, let's wash that down with some Yoo-Hoo, your Yoo-Hoo Gold Glove cards also from around that same time. Let me see if I got a date on these. Yep, 1994. Carl Yastrzemski, Roger Maris, Don Mattingly, Bob Boone again, this time with the Angels, Steve Carlton again, and of course the not officially licensed team names here. So we've got a lot of whited out logos. Brooks Robinson, Luis Aparicio, Bobby Bonds. Fact card number 3, making a baseball bat, and fact card number 4, making a baseball. So you get to get a little education with these. Let me open up this pack too real quick. The Scooter, Phil Rizzuto, Roberto Clemente, Ryan Sandberg, Thurman Munson, Jimmy Catt, Mike Schmidt, looking clearly disinterested to be on a Yoo-Hoo card, Bob Gibson again, Keith Hernandez, and then your fact cards here, making the Gold Glove Awards and the baseball gloves. Now, as you'll see, these are co-branded by Rawlings. So it's Rawlings and Yoo-Hoo and, yep, that's it. It looks like they just had an independent card maker make these. There's no Topps or Fleer or anything like that. Limited edition. So go ahead and pay off that credit card debt with your Yoo-Hoo 1994 Gold Glove cards. Now, holograms big in the 1990s as well. This is the 1992 Upper Deck Denny's Grand Slam hologram card here of Jose Canseco. Very simple, where you've got the hologram of Jose waiting for that pitch, Bay Bridge in the background, and then a little narrative here. Now, the holograms would get stepped up. Upper Deck and Denny's partnering with the hologram Grand Slam cards, and they had to be players who had hit a Grand Slam in their career. That's what qualified them for that. Of course, tying in rather nicely with Denny's Grand Slam breakfast. So if you purchased a breakfast, or if you purchased really any entree and a non-alcoholic beverage, of course I didn't know you could buy alcoholic beverages at Denny's at one point in time, but if you bought a meal and a non-alcoholic beverage, I believe you got this as part of your meal. So that's what it looked like in 1992. But when the agreement with Upper Deck ran out, Denny's decided to move on to Pinnacle. And I've got some examples of the Pinnacle cards. Now, these are from 1996. Very basic here, where you've got this Denny's Grand Slam logo. You've got Mike Piazza, Albert Bell, and Kirby Puckett. And if I flip this over, you know, a very simple action photo, a little narrative on the right. That's about it. And this is from a small subset of 10 cards here. I got to see if maybe these were proofs, because I've got these others from 1996 that actually show the act of batting a ball in action. So if you watch as I kind of slide this from side to side here, let me see if I can get in the light just right. You'll see in this case, Gary Sheffield going yard. And again, nice action photo, stats and story on the back. And Pinnacle really upped the ante in 1997. Look at these Denny's Grand Slam cards here. You not only had the 3D action on the front of the card, but on the back, you had the hologram photo of the player. And also, you know, here's Alex Rodriguez, 1997, big year in honoring Jackie Robinson. So here's a 3D photo of Jackie Robinson in action, although getting tagged out at home. I think there are better options for pictures to use. And there is Jackie on the back of the card. Last but not least, remember these, the Game Day McDonald's football cards. We'll talk about all of these in our next podcast. It drops at noon Eastern this Friday, April the 9th.